I guess it goes with the talk. But as long as it gets everyone up and moving and making it. This is a joyful gathering spiritual center, so we want that joy really expressing. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So as I've said each week this month here at Joyful Gathering Spiritual Center, that we are thoroughly committed to being a catalyst for personal and collective transformation, in which the heart is open to experience God's profound love and joy, and in which divinely inspired dreams become manifest. This is what we do, and this is what we are. Don't you think? Yeah. We come here every week to encourage each other to really use these spiritual truths that we speak about, that we teach in the classes, the workshops, and that we encourage each other. This is a community of encouragement like that. Yes. And if you are thinking about distilling all of our teachings down to spiritual practices, I propose that there are 9 of them. When experienced in tandem, who knows what that means again? Together. Yo, this is like the 3rd week that I've explained. Have you not been here? 2. All right. In tandem. Sounds like. So experience in tandem, 2, supports us in living from our God-centered nature with our hearts open, our visions and our dreams made manifest. So this month, we're exploring these 9 practices, and we have called them what? Divine 9.
Divine 9.
I don't usually give pop quizzes.
Teacher's pet.
So as a reminder of what we discussed so far in our Divine 9, I just want to go over it. We've gone through 4, and today will be 2 more. Sacred service, known as SEVA, S-E-V-A. We explored, in the first week of the month, if you remember, sacred giving of our time and our talent from the overflow of infinite beingness. It's what we do in the world. We talked about that in depth, about how we show up in the world, how we are in service through maybe just a smile, just a kind word to someone that we might not really know, because it makes all the difference. So the sacred service is part of our spiritual practices. Then we spoke about sacred giving, which is tithing. And we explored that the first week of the month, and it is the giving of our treasure to the place where we are spiritually nourished and nurtured. And in our Prosperity Plus class that's going on right now that I've brought up a few times this month, I mean, they have dedicated themselves. We all have. We have a fabulous class in that, 13 of us, I believe. And it is just through the roof, filled with inspiration. But we have gone on this 10-week experiment of tithing 10% of our income. So, to Joyful Gathering, that is. So, and then we tithe 10% to Mary Morrissey, who created the program. And then last week we talked about visioning. And in visioning, it's a way to open up to receive God's highest idea. We did a visioning in service, and I thought it was pretty powerful, where we are looking for the highest and best divine idea of whatever it is that we are asking for. And last week it was for our life's purpose, what to do in my life, how to do it in my life. What visioning does is it gives us an expanded vision of what we might think that we want. We open up to divine mind without filtering, and what comes forth is so powerful. It really is. So after we did the visioning, we then moved into spiritual mind treatment, my favorite, or affirmative prayer, which is really amazingly powerful. We explored that week, and it's another way that opens us up to receive by accepting that higher vision. And we release the prayer. Remember, we went through the whole, if you were here last week, we went through the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment, of affirmative prayer. Okay, so first, I'll do it real quick. Are you ready to receive is the acronym. So it's R, whatever it is, it's the acronym, break it down. So the R part is first, is the recognition of a power for good. And then the U part is the unification of us, individualized and as collective, with this infinite mind. And then realization is claiming our good as if it already has taken place. Gratitude, G, is part of, or thanksgiving, is part of our gratitude for the thing that has already been made manifest. And it's the action step, by the way, if you didn't know. The action step is to release it into the power of God's law, where you've heard of the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect, all of those spiritual laws which will always give back what is put into them through thought and through emotion. So that's the quickest version I got. So today we're going to look at two more. And we're focusing on the words of the master teacher, Jesus, who said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things shall be added unto you." Beautiful promise, isn't it? Yeah. I think so. So in this service, we will deepen into this promise and what it really means, into the sacred practices of meditation and visualization, one of which enables us to go within and the other without. And that just means the outer. It doesn't mean lack. It means the outer, the effects, the conditions. And both of these empower us with the innate ability. We all have this innate ability to create a world that we enjoy living in. And that is the truth. We have that ability. So, we'll go into meditation first. I suspect that a lot of people in the room have the meditation practice, and this is part of the spiritual Divine Nine practices. And I'm sure that many of us have an ongoing practice. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good for you. And those who don't, it will come to you, because it really is such a powerful way to connect with the infinite, So you know the value and the importance of it to regroup, to reground, to gain clarity, and most importantly, to experience that sense of oneness with the infinite. That is our truth. That spark of divinity is within us, and we connect with the infinite, with which is beyond words, is what we are tapping into. It is, as we say in Science of Mind, is one mind, God's mind, that's my mind now, and we really tap into alignment with meditation. And think for a moment, I have an analogy for you. Let water represent the divine. What happens when you try to grab water? Nothing, right? Try to grab it. There's nothing there. But if you immerse yourself in it, say you take a nice hot bath in it, then you are fully immersed in the water. It has a whole different effect and experience for us. And that is what we are talking about with the divine. We can't grab it, but we can immerse ourselves in it. We can immerse ourselves into these spiritual truths and truly believe them. They change everything in our life when we do. That faith is key. Meditation immerses us in the divine and is the practice that allows us to seek ye first the kingdom of God, that infinite goodness of God that is available to each and every one of us. Ernest Holmes, in his book, The Power of an Idea, wrote this. Life gives us the tools, but we have to use them. It is from the mountaintop of spiritual communion that we receive the inspiration. And we must keep the channel free and clear. We must provide a way for the ideas of spirit to flow into our minds and out into what we are doing. And we must give our consent to them. One part of the mind is already in heaven, for there is a place in you and in me that is above confusion and fear. I love that part. There's a part, this is Ernest Holmes, a part of our mind that is above confusion and fear, no matter how disturbed our thoughts may be. If we get quiet long enough and listen deeply enough, we shall hear. That's the power of meditation. And always, for me personally, the breath. And we've been having our breathwork workshops every month with Susan Fady, and there's so many different techniques of breathing, but the whole point of it is to bring us to center, to bring us, and then do some cleansing breaths or whatever breaths that work for you, and then go into meditation. Christian Larson, in The Pathway of Roses, wrote this: the more deeply we love the inner life and the riches of the spirit, the more spiritual and illumined we become. Accordingly, we can see more and more clearly how to do all things as they should be done. Our mistakes will decrease. The wrongs and evil, and we talk about evil as erroneous thinking, wrong thinking, so a little different. So wrongs and evil will disappear. To love the life is to enter into the spirit of truth. And in the truth, there is freedom. Freedom from sickness, evil, weakness, and want. So, we all realize the importance, the benefit of a quiet mind. But what a challenge that can be sometimes. What a challenge it can be. When a student once asked Ramana Maharishi, one of the 20th century's greatest Hindu sages, what stands in the way of my knowing myself or God? He shot back, your wandering mind. Your wandering mind. Oh yes, that wonderful thing that we all have, by the way, you're not unique, our wandering mind. It can be a challenge, but I have this reading. It's a little wordy, but I kind of like it. It's from a class that our ministerial school will be taking, World Religions, a book by Houston Smith. It goes like this. So breathe this in. The motions of the average mind, says the Hindus, are about as orderly as those of a crazed monkey cavorting about his cage. Nay, more like the prancings of a drunken crazy monkey. Even so, we have not conveyed its restlessness. The mind is like a drunken crazed monkey that has St. Vitus dance. And so to do justice to our theme, he writes, however, we must go a final step. The mind is like a drunken, crazed monkey with St. Vitus dance who has just been stung by a wasp. How long, he writes, can the average mind think about one thing only, without slipping first into thinking about that thing and taking off from there on a senseless change of irrelevancies? About 3.5 seconds. 3.5 seconds, psychologists tell us, like a ping pong ball. The mind will go there. It goes where its owner directs it, but only to take off immediately on a jittery flight of staccato bounces that are completely out of hand. So bear with this. What if the mind could be turned from a ping pong ball to a lump of dough, which when thrown against the wall sticks and has to be deliberately removed? Would not its power increase if it could be thus held in focus? Would not its strength be compounded like the strength of a light bulb when ringed by reflectors? This is the aim of meditation. When all the senses are stilled, when the mind is at rest, and when the intellect wavers not, that, say the wise, is the highest state of being. So it is coming from us, and you know this if you're in New Thought and you read any New Thought writings, meditation is key to keep us in alignment, to keep us centered, to keep us grounded. It is key to get in touch with the divine, to be inspired on a really deep level. And then there is, and there it is. Our wandering mind is our greatest challenge. And calming it is our greatest opportunity to reach a higher state of consciousness, of oneness, from which all else derives. All comes from that. Chuang Tzu, an influential Chinese philosopher who lived from 399 to 295 BC. Isn't that cool? It goes the other way. I thought it was cool. But then, I'll tell you what he wrote in a minute. Because I got to tell you, in our ministerial class on Thursday night, it was so funny, right? Well, they're doing their projects, and it's really so deep and amazing. And they're speaking about their personal callings. And I loved it, because at least three people said, well, that was pre-JG, and this is after JG. So we're kind of like in that historic time thing, if you will. Anyway, that's me. So this is what he actually said. When water is still, it is like a mirror. And if water thus derives lucidity from stillness, how much more the faculties of the mind of the sage in repose, becomes the mirror of the universe. And so it's gone on since the beginning of the beginning of the beginning, whenever that was, that man has sought the spiritual truth. That is BC, or BCE, whichever one you want. So it is key, really key, to even for 5 minutes to practice some kind of breath work and meditation. So I could talk on and on about the virtues of meditation, scientific research about meditation, etc. It goes on. But if I did that, I would be like the man who came to visit the home of a well-known writer on spiritual themes. This was a very famous writer. And he took him into his exceptionally well-stocked, full library. There were books on every conceivable kind of meditation, really an impressive collection. With all of these books on the subject, the visitor said, you must be very adept in meditation. The host looked a little embarrassed and said, frankly, I'm so busy reading and studying that I don't have time to actually meditate. So we always talk about action. We can read all we want, but are we living it? Are we really taking it into the world, into our lives, and really embracing, embodying, and living it? That's always going to be key, always. So I'm not going to talk about that anymore, and in a few moments you're going to experience it. Well, we will experience a calming of the wandering, prancing mind. But first we're going to look at our second Divine 9 for today, and that is visualization. Wait a minute, you might say, didn't we already talk about that last week? And isn't that, visualization and visioning the same thing? Well, to answer your question, yes, we did talk about it last week, and no, it is not the same thing. And people often get that confused, so maybe a little clarity around that. They are, in fact, two very different practices, two different things. In visioning, which we did last week, the sacred practice we explored, we are open and receptive with no preconceived ideas. We are open to that divine influx of wisdom. And we practice that through those questions asked and from being in a quiet state that we arrive at. And we did. We did that last week. If you weren't here, check out YouTube for this week, for last week. It's on there. And so we are asking for the divine highest and best good in our lives. Not what we think is the highest and best good, but what the divine thinks is the highest and best good, and we write it all down, and we come out with these amazing, amazing visions that was so much more than we could have just done alone. So that's visioning. Now, Visualization is the thing that puts the, if you will, the meat on the bones. And if you're a vegetarian, you take the meat part out, it fills it in. It fills it in. You visualize with richness, with opulence, with joy, just visioning. It feels good to, not visioning, visualization. It feels good to use the imagination, to move into whatever it is, designing a room, creating a relationship, a career, health, whatever it is, we visualize it as it already has happened in our mind's eye. First of all, I think it's a lot of fun. But it is the vision made manifest, and then the visualization is the feeling of having ourselves having that outer experience. So one is an inner experience, and the other is an outer experience. It shows up in our lives as effects, as conditions, as experiences. And just as important as it is for us to spend time in the silence, in meditation, quieting our minds so that we might commune with the divine, so it is important for us to spend time seeing, feeling, tasting, and experiencing what the divine has brought forth for us to experience. Really be with the experience. Really enjoy that experience. So good. Okay. So, as most of you know, I get Mike Dooley's notes from the universe, and I know a lot of you do, and they come on the computer every day, and they're always really cool. So this one came a couple of weeks ago, and in it was this. And it's great because when you fill in, anyone that's done it, when you fill in what you want to take place in your life with Mike Dooley's form, you put down exactly what you want in your life. So they use your name, and then they key it toward what you want. But this is what came forward. If you could take a daily pill that would profoundly speed up the manifestation of all your dreams, would you take it without fail?
Yes.
Thought so. What if it were a big, ugly pill that took 5 minutes to dissolve on your tongue and tasted like medicine? Would you, now remember, you're creating your deepest, greatest dream. Would you still take it?
Yes.
Yes. But what if during those 5 minutes each day you couldn't watch TV, or you couldn't talk to anyone, or you couldn't be distracted by your cellular device in any way, shape, or form? Would you still do it?
Sure.
Yes.
Thought so. Okay, but what if you skip the pill entirely, and instead you set aside 5 minutes a day to visualize in a dark and quiet room, quieting the mind at all, seeing your life unfold as if your dreams were coming true, and for good measure you had to say or do something that was spiritual in alignment with that each day? I think that discipline, for some reason, because you know that our ego mind does not like change and does not like being told what to do, that is a whole lot harder to do than taking a pill, than turning off devices for 5 minutes. I think what we would find, and it's most effective, what we would find, we forgot to say the end. No, you can't go back to the pill idea. Yours, the universe. Okay, that's from him. That's from Mike Dooley. So it is for us to choose if we want to go into meditation and visualizing 5 minutes a day in a quiet room, exactly what we want to experience. Dr. O. Carl Simonton was a radiation oncologist and a medical research director of the Cancer Counseling and Research Center in Dallas when he suggested to a patient that he could influence his own disease through visualization. This actually happened. The patient was a 61-year-old man with throat cancer so advanced that he was extremely weak and could barely swallow or even breathe. So he had a 5% chance of surviving. Simonton taught the man very specific visualization therapy. The results were so dramatic and the recovery was so remarkable that Simonton and his colleagues taught their mental imaging technique to 159 cancer patients considered incurable. 4 years later, 14 of those terminal patients were disease-free. 17 had stabilized, and another 12, the cancer was in regression. So altogether, an astonishing 63 of the terminal patients were still alive. That's from Architecture of All Abundance. So it's just an idea of what we can create in our lives. And always knowing that there is a divine purpose to our lives. And so I have to put that caveat on here. If it were that it's our time to transition, we will transition. But if there is a way that we are supposed to still be here, I've seen so many people cure themselves of incredible diseases through prayer, through meditation, through visualization, through all of this. And it's incredible. So it's a tool that I encourage all of us to use as part of our Divine 9 spiritual practices. So at this point,